Have you ever wanted to look into retro games but aren't sure where to begin? Do you ever wonder which classic games stand the test of time and which ones don't hold up? These are some questions that have been bothering me for a while now, and I think it's about time to do something about it. So I'm going through gaming's history one game at a time to find the best games of all time. Welcome to the Gaming Archaeologist. So I quite like Super Mario 64. Sure, it's a little dated, but it successfully translated the Mario formula to 3D and did it quite well. And I also quite enjoyed the Donkey Kong Country games for the SNES, so I figured that Donkey Kong 64, the 3D adaptation of the Donkey Kong Country franchise, would be quite good as well. But is it? Kind of. In many respects, DK64 has all the parts of a good game. It's got some nice quirky humor, a likable cast of characters, solid gameplay mechanics, and like Super Mario 64, it takes full advantage of having a lot of the staples we've come to know and love from its 2D predecessors translated into 3D. The only problem is that, well, unlike with Super Mario 64, the creators of Donkey Kong 64 didn't seem to quite know what they were doing. For example, Super Mario 64 lets you get to know how the game works at your own pace. If you want to, you can carefully read each and every sign that gives very explicit instructions about how the controls work and how to maneuver through your environment, or you can just ignore them and dive right in, consequences be damned. Donkey Kong 64, on the other hand, is a bit more heavy-handed with its tutorial phase, which on the one hand is kind of annoying, but on the other hand is also rather helpful, as the controls are not as intuitive, and do need some explanation. Once you get going though, the game does have some nice atmosphere, some nice music, and it is fun to run around and explore. But you quickly run into the main problem with the game, namely that it's all over the place in terms of design, and overcomplicates itself too much. I'll give one example of what I mean. There are 5 possible playable characters. You start off with just Donkey Kong, and as you free his buddies you get the option to play as them, switching from character to character at certain checkpoints. Each character has their own unique abilities and playstyle, so if one character can't overcome a certain obstacle, another one can. So in theory this gives you a lot of different playstyles and a lot of replayability, but in practice it just ends up being annoying. The problem with this is that you might be exploring and then suddenly hit a roadblock that your character can't get past, so you have to trek back and switch to the character that can, which can end up wasting a lot of time. And to make things even more annoying, a lot of the items you need to collect are exclusive to a particular character. So if you manage to find an item but you aren't playing as the right character, sucks to be you because you can't get it. So you have to go all the way back and switch out for the character that can collect it. And what's even more infuriating is that sometimes areas will be littered with different kinds of items, so you're forced to go through the same area at least twice if not more to get all the items, which isn't fun, it's just busy work. There's also lots of different types of collectibles, and it can be hard to keep track of them all. The warp point system is extremely confusing, and there are lots of other mechanics and characters and side areas to deal with. And the game is so needlessly convoluted in its design that it's hard to tell where the heck you're supposed to go. Super Mario 64 did have a lot going on, but it was intelligently and efficiently designed, and captured the elegant, straightforward simplicity that made the 2D Mario games so fun and memorable. Donkey Kong 64 does have its moments, but ultimately it overburdens itself with junk that gets in the way of the actually fun parts of the game, and so I'm afraid that I cannot recommend it. It's not awful by any means, and if you loved the Donkey Kong Country games, you might be able to like this, but I'd say that you're probably better off skipping this one. My final score is a 6 out of 10. I've heard a lot of mixed things about this game online, and playing it now I can see why. It's not a terrible game, and there were parts I liked, but overall it left me rather disappointed. So what do you think? Have you played Donkey Kong 64? Did you like it? Whatever you think, be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. The next game I'll be reviewing is Banjo-Kazooie. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.